Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day is right around the corner, but regardless, I'm the kind of person who enjoys dessert every night. And today in this video, I'm going to show you 2 seasonal desserts that are also not seasonal because it's appropriate to eat and enjoy them year round, but they're also perfect for Valentine's Day. So that was kind of contradictory, but you get what I mean. Today we're going to be making some easy and fuss-free vegan desserts that are great for a solo date, a date with your friend, a date with a significant other in your life, or to bring to parties and enjoy. Personally, I'm a huge chocolate lover, so I have to include a chocolate recipe in here. We're going to be making a vegan no-bake chocolate tart, but then I know not everyone likes chocolate, so we're also going to be making some 2-person berry crumbles, which are the perfect portioned or like perfect sized snack for a date night, or if you just don't want to make a whole pie and eat it. I personally have no problem doing that, but everyone is different, so I got you covered. So let's get into the recipes. We're going to be making a vegan no-bake chocolate tart. So first we're going to start with making our pie base, which is a very easy no-bake base of medjool dates. So you're going to need a packed around 2/3 of a cup of pitted medjool dates. And right here, I'm just covering them with hot water. This helps makes the dates more sticky and pliable, and they will blend up easier. So just make sure they're fully submerged in the water, let them soak for a bit to really rehydrate them. And then once they are all nice and tender, you can drain them out. And I like to gently press my dates just to get some of that extra liquid out so our crust isn't too soggy. And you can actually save this water. It's pretty sweet. You can add it to tea or use it in smoothies if you don't want it to go to waste, but we're not using it in this recipe. So now for the crust base, we're going to add some walnuts along with some cacao powder and a pinch of salt to a food processor. And the first thing we're going to do is blend this until the walnuts are very finely chopped. You could even go a little bit past what you can see here in the food processor, depending on how thick the texture of your final crust you would like. Then at this point, we're going to add in those soaked and drained dates and blend everything together. You may need to scrape it with a spatula in case things aren't sticking well enough. We're going to blend it all together until you get a nice and even pie crust that you can sort of pinch together. So you can see right now there's still some larger chunks of dates, so I'm just moving everything around. Then I'm going to continue to blend this into my food processor until it all will sort of form into a large ball, and then you get the consistency that you're looking for. So as you can see, the crust is nice and shiny and smooth here. So that's what you're looking for. Then when you remove this and moving on, we are going to lightly spray a pie dish. And I like to break the crust up into chunks and spread it around my pie dish. I find that it's easier to spread it out. So as you can see here, I have slightly wet my hands. You can kind of see when I press into the base, and this just prevents the sticky dough from sticking to your hands. So if my hands start to stick, I'll just get them slightly moist again. But basically, you can just take your time, make it as neat or as not neat as possible, and press that pie dough all around the pie base. Really, the only thing that matters is the edge, because the bottom part's going to get covered. So if you don't want to smooth out all the fingerprints, you really don't need to, but I kind of just did here just for aesthetic purposes and because I am type A like that. But that is our pie base. So now we're going to move on to our easy and delicious pie filling. So to start out, we're going to need to melt some chocolate. Here I'm using the double boiler method by filling a pot with a little bit of water, covering it with a bowl, bringing that water to a boil, and then stirring my chocolate chips until they are melted. You need about 12 ounces of chocolate chips for this recipe, and I do recommend actually using chocolate chips because they are processed with a sort of food wax that helps them firm up and solidify more at room temperature. So it's going to give our final pie a firmer end bite. So once your chocolate is about 80% melted with this method, you want to take it off the heat and continue to stir until all of those little tiny chocolate chunks have fully dissolved. So now moving on to our filling, you can just use the same food processor. You don't really need to rinse it out. It's all going in the same place anyways. And we're going to start by adding some silken tofu to the food processor. I'm using a firm variety of silken tofu. So as you can see, it still has a little bit of give when you press it up and down. And this again is going to help our chocolate pie not be totally runny. So add that to the food processor along with some plant-based milk. I'm using oat milk, and we'll also add some maple syrup and some vanilla extract plus a little pinch of salt. So we're going to blend the tofu filling until it's nice and smooth and creamy. And then at this point, you're going to take your melted chocolate and using a spatula or whatever you like, add it to the food processor. The reason that we blend the tofu mixture first is because once this chocolate hits these colder, liquidy ingredients, it could potentially start to seize and harden quickly. So you want to be pretty fast and efficient in this process. And if you added it with chunky tofu, it wouldn't blend to be as smooth. So as you can see, you might need to scrape the sides of your food processor just a little bit here, just to make sure everything is fully combined. But you'll see that the chocolate will begin to thicken like right now, and it forms this really lush and shiny chocolatey filling that is just so good. Honestly, you could probably eat this as chocolate pudding. I need to make a recipe just for that, but we're making a tart today. So you're going to add your filling to your tart base, and I decided to take a little hack, and I have a Lazy Susan lying around my house, and I wanted to give my pie a nice swirl. This is totally optional. If you want to, you can just spread out the chocolate filling like so using a spatula, but if you want to make a swirl, this is how you would do it. So I would use a spoon or a small spatula and slowly bring it towards the center of the pie as you're rotating the Lazy Susan. I also just think this is really mesmerizing to look at, and it's just adding a fun texture element to your pie. So if you want to get fancy, you can do that. But either way, we're going to set our pie in the fridge for a few hours, or preferably overnight until it sets. Then you can top it however you'd like. Here I'm just shaving the edge of a chocolate bar. That's how you get those little chocolate curls, which I wanted to add, which is optional, but again, I just think it's fancy. Personally, I'm a fan of salty and sweet, so I'm topping my chocolate pie with some flicky melon salt. But if you're not a fan of that, you can also leave it out. And now all that's left to do is dig in and slice and enjoy. So as you can see here, the pie should have a pretty thick consistency. It won't run all over the place when you're cutting through it. It's kind of like a mousse, a firm mousse, a pudding. But either way, you can slice out your pie, serve it up, and then top as desired. So I decided to top my pie with a scoop of vegan Cool Whip whipped cream, whatever have you, and a raspberry just for some fun color. But you could also just top it with whipped cream and extra chocolate shavings, or however you want to top it. I love this. It's made from really simple and easy ingredients, and the texture of this is just so lush. It seriously does melt in your mouth. And I do think it's like a cross between a rich chocolate pudding and like a mousse. So you gotta try it. It's so, so good. Next up, we're going to be making some healthy 2-person berry crumbles. This recipe has 2 main parts. First, we'll start with the base and the crumble top, and then we'll do the berry filling. But for this recipe, our sort of doughy base doubles as the bottom and top. So we're going to start by adding some cashew butter to a bowl. You could also use almond butter. It will just slightly affect the flavor of the final dish, and I prefer runny cashew butter instead. Then for some sweetness, we'll add in some maple syrup, and we'll mix those together until they become emulsified. So the cashew butter will thicken and look kind of weird and lumpy, but it's okay, things will get better. Next, we're going to add some rolled oats, some almond flour, some arrowroot powder, baking powder, and salt, and then just mix all of this together. It's going to be a little bit dry at first, but after you really work it in using either a spatula, you could also use your hands, you're going to get a more thick sort of dough like you can see here. So now we're going to go ahead and place a half of the filling in total into greased ramekins. I'm using 4-inch ramekins, but you could use a similar sized baking dish. So a quarter of that total mixture is going to be pressed into each ramekin. So we'll have half of the mixture left for our crumble on top. So we're going to place these in the oven to par bake them. And in the meantime, we're going to move on to our berry filling, which is also made from very simple ingredients. So in a small bowl, we're going to add our berries. I'm using a mixture of strawberries and raspberries. Then we're also going to add some maple syrup to it, along with a little bit of lemon juice for acidity, some vanilla extract, a little bit of arrowroot powder to help thicken, and a small pinch of salt. Then we're going to mix everything together, and here I am macerating my berries a little bit just so we get a more smooth, jammy filling rather than a chunky one. That's also why I cut my strawberries so finely, because they don't break down and mash as easily as raspberries. So after about 10 minutes in the oven, your ramekins and baked berry crumble bottom should look a little bit something like this. So then we're going to divide those macerated berries in between both of the ramekins, including all of the juice here, because that's going to add extra goodness. And then just use a fork to sort of spread everything around, make sure it's evenly distributed. And then now we're going to take the remainder part of our filling and just use your hands to crumble it over the top of each crumble. So you can make the chunks as big or as small as you'd like. I would just personally recommend making them about the size that I'm doing here, or a little smaller. That helps them to crisp up more in the oven. So then we're going to pop our crumbles in the oven. They should look a little bit something like this when they come out. The top will be nice and golden, and then you're ready to dig in and enjoy. Here I am topping mine with some vanilla ice cream because I love the melty vanilla ice cream after you let it sit for a few minutes, and then you can just dig in. And the crumble itself is not overly sweet, so I think it pairs really well with the vanilla ice cream. cream and it's a nice, well-balanced dessert. But if you're not a fan of things that are super sweet, you could just leave the ice cream off and enjoy the crumble as is. Either way, it's very delicious. You can use any berry you'd like, and it's the perfect sweet and not chocolatey treat. All right, guys, there you have it. Leave a comment below and tell me if you are team chocolate or team fruity when it comes to these desserts, or maybe just desserts in general. I'd be curious to know. I think eat chocolate at least once a day. So I'd have to go with the chocolate, but I would also personally enjoy the berry crumble. Maybe add some chocolate chips in it or just have some chocolate on the side, you know? But as always, all of the full recipes will be linked down below. And if you like this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and also subscribe to my channel if you want more vegan recipe content. I post 1 to 2 new videos every single week. So I hope you guys are having an awesome day and eating all the dessert in your life that you want and or desire. And I look forward to virtually seeing you in the next video. Bye.